Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. We usually call this episode Ladies' Tea. We are, of course, joined tonight by politics editor for Breitbart, one of our faves, Emma Jo Morris. Welcome back, Emma Jo. We can't officially call it Ladies' Tea, though, unless, I don't know, Alex, how you're identifying today, editor-in-chief of Breitbart and author of this awesome new book, Breaking Biden, Alex Marlow. Emma Jo, Alex, what a team we have this evening for our show. Thank you both for joining us. Alex, is there anything you want to say about how you feel you're identifying at this moment, or we're just going to call Go ahead.
It's so sensitive of you, Lara. I mean, we're told all the Trumps are these insensitive people, and then you have the courtesy to ask me what my pronouns are, how I identify, and just because I wear a mustache and I would like to think of myself as somewhat of an alpha, I could be non-binary. You never know. But
you never
for
know.
The sake of today's show, I'll call myself a man. How about that?
Okay. So, well, we're just going to go with just a solid Right View group here today. There's so much going on. I felt like on Friday, the topic of conversation was, of course, what was going on in New York with the Attorney General, with my father-in-law, with our family, with the Trump organization. And then, man, did things switch quickly. We obviously saw Hamas launching this unprecedented terror attack on Israel over the weekend. It was so just sobering to watch these rockets launched, to see these young kids. I have kids around the same age as some of these kids who were killed, who are now being held as hostages. Alex, I feel like what we saw happen, obviously, in Israel was a terror attack. It has now started what I believe will be a war over in the Middle East. And I can't help but thinking, and what I thought all weekend, was that this entire situation probably would have been preventable had you had different leadership in the White House. But let me just let you give the audience your thoughts on everything that happened over this weekend in Israel.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that summary. This is truly shocking stuff, even for people who have been in the news business. Emma's been in it for quite some time. I've been in it for 15 years. And it's still one of those days that maybe there's one a year like it, where there's that level of intensity. You can tell the world is materially different from this news cycle. And some of the things we tracked at Breitbart that are just truly different, at least not entirely different, but different at this level of scale, where this isn't just militants fighting soldiers or the hitting strategic targets. This is pure terror, where they're going around to raves and they're taking women, and then they are murdering the women, and then women are getting raped in front of their dead friends, and they're parading their bodies around like trophies in the streets. There was one grandmother who was murdered, and then her murder video was uploaded to Facebook, which is, it's one of these stories that when I see that, I think, oh, that can't be real. No one's that evil. Well, yeah, these people are that evil. And they've certainly been emboldened by the current leadership. I actually have a story up today at Breitbart News where I document all of it. I go through all of it, but every place where Joe Biden has put his mind to it in terms of foreign policy over the course of his entire career, things have gotten more chaotic. And the Middle East is no exception. He's been harder on our allies in Saudi Arabia and in particular Israel than he has been our enemies like Iran. Not to mention he wants to restart the Iran nuclear deal, which would elevate Russia, which, Lara, I was told Russia is the worst country in the world. But Biden wants to elevate them with the Iran deal. I mean, you go on for hours on this topic, but 100%, if Donald Trump was president, this wouldn't have happened. That is, take that one to the bank.
Yeah, and Emma Jo, there was a lot of information coming out over the weekend where people were learning. They were saying, oh, well, this $6 billion that was obviously unfrozen, this was some sort of a hostage transfer, right? There were 5 Americans held in Tehran who were released along with some Iranians here in the United States. But then the United States unfroze $6 billion of money that was, to go back to Iran. That money, I think a lot of people say, funded what we saw happen on Saturday in Israel. But then you have Blinken saying, well, no U.S. taxpayer dollars were involved. So obviously we should all just go ahead and calm on down then, I guess.
Well, that's it. And like they're playing this, they're doing this stupid sleight of hand. This is what they're doing. They're saying that the $6 billion was for humanitarian stuff and like food or whatever. So that's the way that they're framing it, right? Is that no, they couldn't have used this money for weapons or terror because it was only designated for food.
Right.
But the thing is, you can move $2 from this bucket and put it in the other bucket. So if Iran had $6 billion for food of their money, now they have $6 billion of your dollars, so they can move their money into the terror bucket. That's obviously the case. You know, they were obviously doing this because they felt like they had the capability to. They obviously didn't do it in the past because they didn't. It's not like Iran just woke up this morning and decided that they wanted to fund Hamas and destroy Israel. This is their raison d'etre. Is nuking Israel and nuking us. And so for some reason, we decided to give them $6 billion, the Biden doctrine. One day, maybe Alex has to explain that one day of what is the philosophy behind the Biden foreign policy. I still don't understand, but yeah, I mean, this Israel thing is really, this is a country where they will trade a dozen prisoners who are Palestinian for one dead Jewish body to bury them with dignity. This is the culture that we're talking about. And you're already seeing it. You're already seeing now, Blinken, just everyone cool off. You said that in your intro at the top. And then you have like the squad too, let's just de-escalate the situation. We watched women and Holocaust survivors get carted off and paraded into the street, lifeless bodies. It's just, all I can say is I think that, like Alex said, the world has changed a lot. The world has changed a lot in 3 years. And it's absolutely terrifying because month by month, it deteriorates at such a rapid pace that God knows where we're going to be by next election. God knows. But this is serious. And I don't think Israelis are chill. I don't think that anyone worldwide watching this is cool.
Yeah, it is terrorism. You hear a lot of people describing Hamas as a militant organization. You don't go house to house and either kill the families that you find in the homes, or if you can't get them out because they're hiding, burn the homes down, which is what these people were doing. You don't parachute in to a music festival and then take out machine guns and just start spraying them and mowing people down. If you are just a militant group, this is terrorism. I think it has to be called out. And I think, Alex, the interesting thing to me has been to see maybe the lack of people talking about it who are in leadership positions. Really the lack of anything from Joe Biden that is tangible in any way, right? We had a barbecue over the weekend at the White House. I don't know who thought it was a great idea to keep that planned. Maybe we could have pushed it a couple of days down the road. They went ahead with the barbecue and then they say, oh, well, we stand beside Israel. No, I think we needed something stronger from the leadership here in America. Heck, Donald Trump came out and said himself this was an act of savagery, that these people must be crushed and this must be avenged for Israel. At least he's talking about it. Where's the rest of the leadership in this country, though?
You're right about this. And this was something that is almost as disturbing as the terror itself. Not quite, but almost as disturbing was the lack of leadership that we saw. In fact, we saw the State Department actually tweet out that all sides should refrain from violence. Lara, equating the terrorists with their victims is pure evil. There's no other way to put it. That's an evil sentiment coming from our State Department. After some backlash, they deleted it. But these people are completely lost on how to deal with it. And I have a theory why, and it came to me while I was researching the Bidens over the last year and a half, is that they never crossed their left-wing base. And their left-wing base, even though there's a lot of secular Jewish people who are more mixed on this issue, religious Jewish people, they understand this thing. And this is a terror effort to try to erase and eradicate Israel. But the left-wing secular base, they don't believe that. They believe there really is an equivalence in this case between Israel, who they see as the oppressors, and the Palestinians, despite all the evidence of terror that we've seen. That's what's so shocking about all this, is that Joe Biden is afraid to cross that group of people, those left-wing voters, because he needs them, because he's in the 30s now in some of his polls.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's tough going for Joe Biden, that's for sure. And I'm
just to that point, just for 1 second, it's
Yeah.
like it's such an own actually that comes full circle, because those people are propagandized by who? The people who dress their militants in jeans and t-shirts. And they do that for a reason. Because then when Israel retaliates against terrorists, you see a man in jeans and a t-shirt on the ground.
Wow.
And you say, oh my God, this evil army killed a guy, just a guy. But you don't say that when you see a dead soldier. Why? Because he's in a uniform and that's war.
Wow.
And so there's this horrible circle that goes around, because he's, as Alex said, and I'm sure he's right. He has me totally convinced on this after reading his book, that Joe Biden is here to appease his base. And that's how he keeps winning elections, is because he throws something here, throws something there, throws something there, and all of a sudden he's hit 5 groups of people with things that they want. And it's very clever. But in this circumstance, you're appeasing people who have been propagandized by terrorists. And that's the point. That's why they don't have a uniform on. And that's why they don't draw a distinction between civilians and militants. The civilians are the militants in many cases. And this is a horrible conclusion to that propaganda effort. Dangerous.
It is.
If
Go
you
ahead,
look at, if you look at what the chatter is online, it's a debate on the topic that you were just discussing with Emma. Where is the $6 billion going? Well, it's the president, Raisi, said flat out he's going to spend it on whatever he wants, while he was laughing, literally laughing. He already said that. So there's no debate. So, and yet that's the debate, like whether or not J.D. Vance sent an appropriate tweet by suggesting that Iran's going to use this money for terror. That's the discussion. The only discussion right now should be, what can we do to help the people of Israel right now? And condemnation of radical Islamic terror. That's it. And if you're a moderate Muslim, if you're a peaceful Muslim, and God knows there are many of them, maybe there's a billion of them, they should be the loudest right now, saying, we hate this, we condemn this, we're out on this, we want nothing to do with this. I'm not hearing that from the Rashida Tlaibs of the world.
And you know what? I even saw that one of the, maybe it was Kendall Jenner, one of the Jenner girls, posted over the weekend an Israeli flag on her Instagram or Twitter or something. And then she took it down because people were giving her a hard time. Absolutely not. You better stand up and say, this is wrong. You better stand up and say, we support Israel here. There should be no question about it. But the fact that there are people wavering, kind of like you said, Alex, and Emma Jo, what you were just talking about, the fact that Joe Biden is one of these disgusting people who doesn't actually stand for anything. You could buy him off in a heartbeat, and he doesn't really care who it harms or how it impacts anyone else, because he just wants to keep himself and his family rolling in the cash and elevating themselves on the political scene. It is disgusting. And honestly, it is one of the most horrifying things to think that this individual is now the president of the United States, the supposed leader of the free world. Well, he doesn't look like much of a leader. Alex, it kind of brings me to your book. You have this incredible book that really exposes the Bidens in a way that apparently none of us have ever seen. Breaking Biden. That somebody said, I saw this quote, this is, maybe you said this is truly the book the Biden family does not want you to read. I am 100% certain that if every American reads this book, Joe Biden's career will be over, as well as many others in his orbit. Tell us about the book. I'm so in now. I got to read.
Thank you, Lara. I really appreciate it. And the Trump family and the conservative ecosystem has been so supportive of this. John Jr. was one of the first people to get on board behind it. And from people like Sean Hannity to Mark Levin to Dennis Prager, I mean, it's just so many people. I had a great interview about an hour with Emma that you can get at Breitbart.com. But I basically set out with the hypothesis that Joe Biden is not the guy that we're told he is, that we're told that he's just a puppet and he's an idiot and he basically lucked into the job. And I didn't accept that. I think America is a more savvy, more sophisticated country than to just elect a guy who is just a puppet and a dummy. And when you go back in time, I think you become convinced he's neither of those things. He says dumb stuff all the time, but he's been doing that for 50 years, and yet he manages to keep winning. And he manages to cut these semi-sophisticated deals overseas for his family where his family keeps getting enriched. They keep bagging cash, and we can't seem to put any of them away. Well, why is that? Because the system is broken. But who built the system? It was Joe. And he's been building it really since the 70s into the 80s, and certainly since he was vice president. And tracing back every one of his policy failures, I think, is also quite useful, because people don't have the context of how bad his policy was vis-a-vis Russia and Ukraine. Putin would not have invaded Ukraine if not for Joe Biden, not just his bad policy as president, but as vice president. This is relevant context for the 2024 election. And then you take an issue like today, Joe Biden, who backtracked in the region when it comes to peace, when Trump had made it one of the centerpieces of his foreign policy agenda to make peace, the Abraham Accords, et cetera, normalizing relationships with Saudi Arabia and other parts of the region, making that a centerpiece. Joe Biden abandoned that. Why? To spite Trump and to appease the radicals in his base. And now we're in a situation like we're in today. So no one really has taken this on and just assumed that there's some sort of shadowy group of oligarchs who are controlling him and they have their hand in Joe's backside. There's puppeting around. And I'm not saying there's none of that going on, but Joe is driven by power and money. And the money is for his family. And that's why he's gotten away with so much. The bribery schemes are beyond belief. I list dozens in the book, but they're not going directly to Joe. There's no picture of Joe with the cardboard check saying, shaking Xi Jinping's hand. And until we get that, that's not going to be good enough for his base to be convinced that he is selling out the country. So it's on us to re-engage in this fight, especially with the election coming up, to understand he really is the biggest threat on the left in America today, and he needs to be taken seriously. If we blow this off, if we act like, oh, he's just some nincompoop, I know Joe Biden, we're going to lose again. And that's the warning I'm trying to give.
Well, I think it's so great that you dug in like you did. I imagine that you really had to work hard to gather all of this information. You must have worked with a ton of people. You just named a couple of them. So I assume people can get the book anywhere they would normally find books out there, Amazon or wherever they.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, we have to go.
Yeah. Anywhere they like. Is fine with me. I'm agnostic where you get them. If you go to Premier Collectibles, you get a signed book. Amazon is sort of better than some of the rest. I went to a Barnes and Noble over the weekend, and I saw they had one copy of my book in the very back of the store. So it's not like I'm a huge fan of theirs, to be honest. So wherever you can get it, and pick one up for a liberal who you think might actually want to know the truth about this. There you go.
Did they have the Michelle Obama book out front? Like literally every airport I go to, I'm like, my God, enough with the Michelle Obama book. It's like right there in my face. Yet I actually went one time looking when my brother-in-law, when Don had released a book, and I was like, let me just see if I can find Don's book anywhere. I went to a mall. I went to like one of those major bookstores. But Don's book all the way down at the bottom, and then you had all of the liberal books right up there up top. Interesting how that one works out. But congratulations. I think it's so great. I'm so interested in reading it. And Emma Jo, I mean, we have so many reasons. Like Alex said, we've got to win this next election, but we also need to hold people accountable. The House Ways and Means Committee is releasing information now that suggests the Biden family business raked in $20 million from 23 countries via 20 shell companies. I don't know why you would need all of that. We know that like 9 of the Biden family members, all the way down to some of the grandkids, have received money. And apparently they say the documentation suggests a deliberate attempt by Biden to evade taxes and shield visibility. There were, like I said, more than 20 shell companies and LLCs. James Comer calls it organized crime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for Antarctica to come up in the bank records so that we can say they've hit
everywhere.
Although I don't think it's corrupt enough. But yeah, and listen, unfortunately, I guess, or fortunately, I'm not sure, Congress doesn't have the ability to jail anyone. They don't have the ability to press charges against anyone. So they can make the case all day that there was crimes committed here or not or whatever. But the fact is, all this serves to do is give information to the American public. And then what then? Well, they care about how this affects their lives, you know, and I've been on calls with people much smarter than me where they're asking me about Biden corruption and what my reporting says. And then, I go through this litany of like, horrific corruption, the worst that you can imagine. And then at the end of the call, this happened once and I was almost stunned, but it was like, okay, but people care about the price of groceries. People care about inflation. This is all horrible or whatever, but people care about other things before they care about the Biden's enrichment.
Wow.
But I thought that was really deep, actually, because that's totally true. And what it signified to me was that people don't draw the connection between what happened and why it matters. And that's why I think, I'm so happy that Alex wrote this book, because it literally took me like a week to deal with it and process it. And it really shows, like, Alex's book makes that jump actually between what happened and what the problem with it is in your life. And he goes through issue by issue by issue, showing how this corruption manifests itself and why it's an issue, because this person is making bad decisions as a result of his own self-enrichment. And those decisions impact you every day. Whether it be on the economy, whether it be on your culture, whether it be on immigration. It's one thing to say, he took money from China. I mean, I guess, he's a scumbag for that. But you really care when you hear that your oil reserves went to China and to a company that Hunter Biden was in business with. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, wait, that's why my prices are crazy, because my oil is going not into my tank, but into a tank in Beijing or Shanghai. And why? Oh, because this guy's on the take and he has interest there in Beijing and Shanghai and not in Nebraska. So I think that is, the shell companies and Congress, and it's all fine and it's good. And we definitely should know about this. I mean, that's like my whole beat and life. But at the same time, people need to realize what this means for them. And it does mean a lot for them, but that message needs to be made clear, I think, by Congress and just in public discourse.
Well, it's kind of interesting because it kind of reminds me how no one cared so much about the border being open on the left until it started impacting their lives. And then once people start feeling the negative impact of it, they're like, oh my God, this is terrible. We can't sustain this. We can't continue on like this. One of those folks, of course, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who asked a judge to suspend the right to shelter law after having more than 122,000 migrants flood into New York City in 1 year. It's really amazing, I think, to see, because last year, Eric Adams, Alex, said he was proud to house the migrants. And now you have him asking for this judge to repeal this 40-year law in New York City. 15% increase in, I'm sorry, 159% increase in the housing need in New York City. Homelessness, I guess. New York City is going to spend $12 billion over 3 years on this illegal immigration crisis. $1.1 billion, by the way, since May has been spent. $1.1 billion. I mean, oh my God, this is insane. It's more than New York City's sanitation, fire, and parks department budget combined. It is really astonishing. But I guess, Alex, Eric Adams finally got the memo. You cannot just have a fully open southern border because this does not work.
Yeah, you ever notice how he never blames Joe Biden for any of this?
Right. What is
the number one guy?
Guatemala
over 50 years.
But no.
It's amazing. It's amazing to see. There's one person who could fix this. Just enforce the laws. Go talk to your friend Joe at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Yeah, exactly, Alex.
Yeah, amazing. He's the guy more than any other individual walking the planet. Why we have an open border is Joe Biden. And it is that no one points this out. It's just we just blow through it. It's just there's one guy who did this. And because it's not convenient politically for Eric Adams. But it is an amazing thing that we're witnessing, that finally the people who have argued for sanctuary cities and sanctuary states are finally coming to terms with having to deal with the downstream effects of being a sanctuary, instead of leaving that all to Texas and to basically where I've spent most of my life in California, which was ruined by illegal immigration 30 years ago. And again, we just blew past that. We've had a real reset on this topic. And I think that puts President Trump in a really good spot, at least issues-wise, come 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. It's so crazy. You're so right, Alex. The fact that that Eric Adams is not like, hey, we need a closed border. Maybe we could talk to the president of the United States, or I don't know, the borders are Kamala Harris. He actually went down to Latin America. He went to Mexico City, Ecuador, Colombia. He met with the country's leaders and also went to, and I quote, manage expectations of those coming north who are obviously intent on breaking our laws, wanted to dissuade them from coming. And so he was then asked prior, I believe, to this trip happening, Emma Jo, what the position of New York City was as it related to the border being open. He said, we believe the borders should remain open. What the hell is wrong with this guy? So the message is, come to America, but just don't come to New York City? What is wrong with him? Really?
Well, it's not even come to New York City, because they were handing out like leaflets, like they sent leaflets to the border that just says like in Spanish, like, don't come to New York, please.
Oh my God.
Quietly, and here's the thing that's a problem for Eric Adams and likewise for Kathy Hochul is they are slaves to the New York Times. They have a problem because the New York Times dictates their fate. And the New York Times is run by neurotic millennials and progressives who, like, if you'll recall, they've had a number of scandals recently. Obviously, I think the biggest one was when Tom Cotton wrote an op-ed, who's a sitting senator, that we need to stop looting Gucci stores and breaking windows. And they had a mutiny and the editor got fired.
That's crazy.
So this is who these people are relying on for coverage and who are relying on basically for re-election. So they're in a really tough spot where they have to quietly whisper to the migrants, please stop. We can't just like lightly and softly like pushing them over to a different state, but then also can't say it too loudly because Mara Gay at the New York Times might hear, and then she freaks out and you're done. So you can't, it's a very difficult position that they're in. But listen, the thing is, I don't know how much longer the New York Times hangs on to their virtue signal, because these migrants are on Madison Avenue.
Yeah. And
all of a sudden their readers are getting real close to the problem. And I don't think that they're having it. I don't think that, the Roosevelt Hotel is a block away from JP Morgan Chase headquarters. The Roosevelt Hotel is up the street from the Yale Club. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is right in their neighborhood now, the New York Times subscription base in their neighborhood. And I can't imagine that they like to see an open air Salvadorian prison on Madison Avenue, which is what the outside of the Roosevelt Hotel looks like. It's men who are with their knees up, sitting back to like shoulder to shoulder like that. I can't imagine that this goes on much longer. I don't know how how each of these players in power is going to balance this. Yeah. It's a hard charade to keep up.
I mean, we just needed, I shouldn't have put so much stock in Eric Adams. I understand that. That was my mistake. I thought, how could someone be worse than Bill de Blasio? Like, the bar was so incredibly low. And I said, you know what? This is a law enforcement guy. Yeah, he ran as a Democrat, but maybe he'll come in with some common sense. Maybe he'll actually speak some truth. Maybe we'll get like some ball busting like we had with Rudy Giuliani back in the day. Let's really go after people who are breaking the law. Let's put them away. Let's clean up the streets. Let's bring New York City back. Man, I was just so let down, Alex, and every opportunity he gets to prove that he actually has any single thought of his own, he shows pretty clearly he doesn't. There's someone else pulling the strings. There's someone who's like, oh, well, you can't go out and say that because this person will get upset. God, I wish we could just get somebody to run what is, a great city. I lived in New York for 15 years. I love that city. And I'm so sad to see how it's just been abandoned and it's being run by, honestly, people who don't know what the hell they're doing. It's so sad to me.
Yeah, I think the explanation is he's got higher office on his mind, which is the way things work now. And that's, I know it's a scary thought for everyone in New York who cares about New York, but I think that's what it's about, because if he was really independent, he wouldn't be making these moves. He'd be making stronger moves, and he'd be calling out the people who could fix it, which is the people in charge of enforcing our border. That would solve the problem for him. But he doesn't do that. We saw a phenomenon out in LA where this guy, Alejandro Villanueva, was the sheriff. And he's a Democrat, liberal guy, but he wasn't looking for higher office. So he was starting to crack down on stuff, and it was going really well. But he went up against the left. He crossed the left. So even though he's a Democrat, he got voted out because the left mobilized against him. And that's the fear. That's why we can't have independent people. The two-party system, unless your name's Donald Trump, apparently, is just so stifling that everyone ends up just regressing to some tribe, and they're afraid to cross their own tribe. And that's why we're getting such crappy policies, and why we're getting such crappy politicians. And we need to have some bold mavericks. So we need to have some real free thinkers out there who are just speaking common sense, but we don't have that at all. Almost anywhere in the country, there's so few of those people.
God, it's so depressing. And I don't know. I feel like it only gets worse. Thank God we have Donald Trump. Thank God he's at least out there breaking it up a little bit and telling people what they need to hear and doing the things while he was president that needed to be done. Don't want to get off this topic, but I do want to talk very quickly about the Bidens and their issues with dogs. I'm a dog lover, Emma Jo. Truth be told, I'm an animal person. I have 3 dogs. I've been around dogs my whole life. And we now have the second Biden dog that is a German Shepherd that has now had to be removed from the White House because this dog has been biting people. Commander is his name. Reports suggest that while they only recorded 12 biting incidents, the number of people being bitten by this dog were actually much higher than that. And the fact that it's their second dog, I'm going to tell you something. This is not the dog's fault. There are no bad dogs. There are bad dog owners. And I got to tell you, the second I heard about this, I was like, this too is Joe Biden's fault. What did you think of the dog? I felt so sad for it. Sorry for this dog.
Well, this is a big dog show. You know, 3. I have 2. I think Alex has 2 also.
Oh, good. Yeah.
We're big dog people in this panel, and that said, it's like as an owner of 2 dogs, I can say that there's no such thing as a dog. Like, it's not a biter. There's no such. It's nuts. That's a stressed, scared dog. They only act like that when they're having tremendous anxiety. I mean, I have a dog actually who has naturally a high anxiety, and she has never bit. And when you learn that a dog, maybe Commander is an anxious dog. Dogs have personalities just like people do. Mm-hmm. And you have naturally anxious people just like you have naturally anxious dogs. That's fine. But you have to help the dog. And this is clearly a dog that's either anxious or under tremendous stress. Either way, that falls on the owner. There's no such thing as a dog that bears responsibility for anything. They're like babies, and they have to be helped and trained and taken care of like babies in order to, abate bad behavior and promote good behavior. I mean, this person has no place having a dog if your dog has bitten people 12 times. That signifies to me a dog that's in a bad situation.
Well, and Alex, I felt like the dogs for the Bidens were a showpiece, right? Just like everything else with Joe Biden, it's all crap. It's all just for the cameras. It's all to make him look better. This is irresponsible dog ownership. You're probably right, Emma Jo. These dogs were probably very stressed. They probably were not actually taught how to behave to begin with. But you think about German Shepherds, these are dogs that can actually handle a lot of stress. These are military dogs. These are police dogs, right? Yeah, or this is irresponsible dog ownership. And as far as I'm concerned, they use these dogs just for show. And I just want to say quickly, a lot of people gave my father-in-law a hard time for not having a pet while he was in the White House. You had Socks the cat, you had the Obama dogs, everybody, we've got to have a pet. And as a crazy animal lady, I would love to have seen that. But you don't want somebody who's not going to actually be fully engaged with a pet, having a pet. And Alex, here's a great example of why.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, as a German Shepherd owner,
Oh,
you don't leave them alone. They need responsibility. They're not
yeah.
happy unless they're given tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And he's getting ignored. Of course, he's getting ignored. And training dogs, most dogs can be trained. If the dog can't be trained, the dog shouldn't be in the White House around important people.
Right.
But the dog should be trained. There's clearly no effort happening. But you know how right you are about the showpiece element.
Yeah.
I was researching Joe Biden's dogs because that's what you do when you write a biography of Joe Biden. And you know what he's named his dogs in the past? President, Senator. He gave his wife a dog called Senator as a gift. I mean, it's always been a showpiece with him. It's
Yeah.
always been part of his political narrative. It's never been genuine, and it is just. I feel for the dog. I feel for the people,
Yeah.
and it's just he's not a good guy. He's not a genuine guy, and I think for all those people, Emma's amazing point about how the corruption is terrible. Yes, we know that. The foreign policy is terrible. We know that too. Of course, there's more details that I unearth, but for your normal people, I try to explain why grocery prices are so high, why the baby formula is gone, and why he's a deadbeat grandpa, and get into that psychology, how he ignores his grandkids and then acts like he's the greatest grandpa on earth. He's just a bad guy in every sense of the word. We need to be rid of this man.
Yeah. God, especially I just feel so bad. I don't know what happened to these dogs. I feel so sorry for them. Alex, I love that you have a German Shepherd. What are your dogs' names?
I got Daphne and Chip. So Daphne is the German Shepherd. Chip is Chip, are you in here? I think Chip is in the studio
Oh my
right
God.
now.
Can we
He's the
see
terrier
Chip?
mix. Chip, can you get over here? I wish you
my
could see
God.
Daphne. She is not here. She is too loud for the studio. But
Well, Emma Jo knows I love an animal appearance on a show.
Yeah, I've had a break in once or twice.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
They both have good stories. So Daphne, Daphne's parents were military dogs,
Oh,
and
see? Wow.
a Marine who retired was raising dogs, and she's a singleton, which means that her parents, she was the only puppy in the litter, which is so cool. So when I went to visit Daphne when we bought her, then the family was just 3 dogs, 2 retired military dogs, and Daphne. It was so cool. And then I get a top of the line dog. I get to do some good by having a dog that helps a military family. But Chip was a rescue. And I'll tell you, Lara, you'll appreciate this. He's a terrier mix. He was rescued from the super nice family that would have adopted him the following weekend. So I feel really proud of that because we got him instead of the next nice family that would have got him if we didn't.
Wow. I love it. Emma Jo, what are your dogs' names?
Bella and Luna. They have very basic dog names because we're in Brooklyn.
I love it. I have, excuse me, you don't get more basic than mine. I have Charlie, I have Ben, and then I have Tiger. So no kind of signaling as to a future run for office or anything on any of our levels here. I like it.
I would not let my dogs anywhere near that White House for what.
You know, I've taken mine too, Charlie and Ben, to the White House. Oh my God, there it is. Oh my God, that's Chip. Hi, Chip. Look how cute. Oh, I love it. Look at those ears. Fantastic. Do you know what kind of mix Chip is? This is amazing.
We think terrier and probably Chihuahua.
Yeah, it looks Chihuahua.
So big. Maybe he's just well fed.
Oh my God, I love it. Chip is the greatest. My dogs actually went to the White House because
look at the poise. Look at the poise of him on camera.
He's
amazing, Chip.
He's been waiting for this
baby boy.
His whole life, Alex. Been waiting for this forever. Yes. But they did not bite anybody when we were at the White House.
I will sometimes accidentally use my inside the house dog voice outside the house, and I panic every time it actually happens because in private I'm like, come here, and then sometimes I'll accidentally do that on the street and I'm immediately very embarrassed by it. So I'm glad that you clearly have that problem too, where you can't just help yourself and you have to hug your dog no matter where you are.
It's the greatest. It doesn't get any better. Before we go today, I just want to get to our national parks here in this country. We got a lot of good ones there. I mean, you could travel from coast to coast. You can see some beautiful scenery. We have incredible topography here in America. You can see it at a lot of America's national parks. There was a post, the United States Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, was talking to, I guess we're supposed to believe, a park ranger And let's just go ahead and play the clip quickly for everyone to see.
So excited to be here with you at Stonewall National Monument with these beautiful flags behind us. Tell me in your own words why places like this, like Stonewall, are so important to telling America's story.
That's a great question. I think it's because queer rights are more under attack than ever. And I think if we don't acknowledge the past, we're bound to repeat it. So, at a place like Stonewall, this beautiful place, it's a place where...
All right, so we have a drag queen park ranger. Now, the interesting takeaway for me, Emma Jo, is that this individual wants us to, first of all, take him, her, I assume this person wants us to refer to her as her, him as her, whatever, mustache, full makeup, and honestly, I don't think you have any actual women working for the National Park Service who are dressed in a mini skirt and this sort of revealing ensemble.
This is Alex at girls' night.
Right.
Trump show.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me.
Like what
Yeah.
the heck was this all about? And were we supposed to take this seriously?
There was a point where you would have thought this was a troll. First of all, someone that size, I will call you whatever pronouns you want, okay? Once you crest over 7 feet, I will acknowledge your pronouns. Anyone under 7 feet, I'm going to call you your biological pronouns. But I'm scared. I'm intimidated.
Oh, not the
one thing, Lara. Yeah, one thing that's so interesting about this crop of some of the more public trans people. It's not all trans people. I'm not trying to go down that road, but the people getting the notoriety. It's not just that we have to accept them. They're imposing a sexual identity on us. That is just like, why is Deb Haaland having to do with this charade?
Right.
Where we're getting it's a very sexual image. It's like, it's not just we're tolerating the trans, it's we're embracing their sexual identity, which is how many normal people or non-trans people, I'm going to get taken out of context there. How many non-trans people are opposed that audio? And by the way, it's not normal to be 7 feet and then to cross-dress with Deb Haaland. It's not normal. So I regret
this Deb Haaland person reminds me of, I don't know if there's any South Park viewers on this panel or in the audience, but when Mr. Garrison, Garrison becomes Mrs. Garrison. And he's
exactly.
Still bald.
Oh my God. It's so true. Because I'm sorry.
It was once a joke. It was once satire. And now we all have to play along as if this person is supposed to be serious. Like you asked us at the beginning, like, are we meant to take this seriously? And it's like, I'm not really sure, but I don't think that I can, because this person literally, like, it's literally as if Alex were sitting in his seat right now demanding that we call him she.
Right.
You can't play along unless you're at gunpoint, which sometimes you kind of are. Gunpoint of getting fired, obviously, or like nobody's like, oh yes, of course, no.
It's just the whole thing was just so ridiculous. And by the way, Deb Haaland looks doesn't want to look this person in the eyes. She's kind of like looking around, doesn't know what to do. And the height difference, Alex, to your point, is so astounding and just so jarring. You're like, what is this? They actually cut this drag queen's head off in the video because they couldn't fit everybody in the frame. It's just this is the kind of crazy stuff that I think people are like, what are we doing? This is somebody that works for the National Park Service. We're just take this seriously?
As much as we're laughing at this, and maybe we shouldn't be, I actually think that this is the only appropriate response, and this is the response that will make this stop. Because as long as we yes, you're beautiful and stunning and brave, as
with
long
your
as
mustache,
this madness continues, and when you mock it, it deflates it completely, and it makes it okay. As more people start to laugh at it, it makes it okay to not play along with this emotional blackmail / South Park episode that we're all living in.
I love South Park. Who's a big fan? My husband. He plays South Park clips for me constantly on his phone. He's like, look at this one.
Because we live in a South Park episode, and there's so many examples of that.
It's literally happening every single day. We're living through South Park. Well, I want to say thank you. Go ahead, Alex.
I love it. Yeah, just quick thought. I love it. First of all, it's terrific content for Breitbart.com, so I'm always grateful for that. And second of all, to Emma's point, when it gets to be this level of absurdity, it does make me think we're going to eventually come out the other side.
Hopefully.
And we'll be returned to normalcy. And that does not involve mistreating people who are going through things mentally. And absolutely, I want compassion for those people. But this is performance art. And so we can laugh at that because that's what it is.
Yep. Sometimes we got to laugh. Otherwise, we'll just cry because things are so crazy sometimes. Emma Jo, thank you. Alex, thank you. Everybody, please go buy Alex's book, Breaking Biden. We got to learn everything we can about this guy so that we can get him out on November 5th, 2024. To everybody at home, as always, thank you for joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it. So I'm like a lot of people. I love to wear an Apple Watch, but I hate how it looks. And I scoured the internet to search for the best looking Apple Watch cases I could find, and I found it. goldandcherry.com. They have absolutely beautiful watches, as you can see here. Everything is waterproof. Everything looks good with different outfits. You can get sporty, you can get fancy, but they are great quality, made out of Delaware in the United States of America. And they have been kind enough to give me a promo code that I can share with you if you want to get your hands on one of these as well. It's Lara T, L-A-R-A-T is the promo code to get yourself a discount at goldandcherry.com. And not only do they make Apple Watch cases, they also make great products for iPads and iPhones, keyboards, your desktop, everything you could possibly need. Goldandcherry.com. Use promo code LARAT so you can get yourself one of these today too. At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, "This is the pillow that I want to sleep with." And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code TRUMP. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code TRUMP. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code TRUMP. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.